For this reason, a man will leave his
father and mother and cleave his wife, and they two become one flesh.
There's a reason why it is the man that has to leave.
Even though that seems like
it's supposed to be the woman that is leaving our father's house to come and live with a man, but actually it's the man that's supposed to leave, and there's a reason. God is a God of order. He doesn't just do things without order in place. God believes, let's use that word, there's anyone like that a man is the head of the home.
Yes.
And because he's the head of the home, he's the primary custodian of the vision of that home.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that a woman cannot have a vision or should not have a vision, but it just simply means that any vision any woman has, a man has to have that vision too.
Exactly.
And so he's the primary custodian of that vision. Not because the woman cannot say anything about the vision or say, this is what I think this marriage should be, but because when it's time for God to ask questions about our home, the man is the primary one responsible for answering those questions.
I saw recently with Kiki, and then she was on a date with a man that came with his mom, and she was asking him, like, I don't understand. He said his mom is the most important woman in his life. That's beautiful. When we marry, she says my mom is still going to be the most important. The girl was now like, okay, when we get married, assuming we get married, that means you will leave your mom. If you miss her, what will you do? He said, I won't miss her now.
Because
I'll just go and see her in the master bedroom. Like, Hi guys,
welcome back to our channel. Hey baby,
it's good to have you here.
You look good.
Thank you.
Glory to God.
Hallelujah.
Maybe I look handsome too now.
You look good. Sorry, I'm mesmerized. I'm still, basking in the
glory.
euphoria of the greeting.
Oh, glory to God.
You look good. I love your haircut.
Thank you, baby.
You're handsome. You know now.
Alrighty, so let's get started. Welcome back to our channel. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Thank you for your engagement on our last post.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. And for those of you who have not subscribed who are watching our videos, like Igbo people will say,
what again do you want? Why didn't you do that?
Yeah, so subscribe to our channel. It doesn't bite. It doesn't bite. I wish Petra was here to listen to that and just laugh. Yeah, all right. So today,
hey, we
want to talk about something that
my hands are clean.
Which clean hands?
See,
your hands are into this 100%. All right, so we want to talk about managing your relationship with your in-laws, setting boundaries, especially when it comes to managing your relationship with your in-laws.
And extended family.
An extended family, exactly. So let's define it. In-laws, the father.
In-laws are by marriage.
By marriage, right? Then extended family can be by marriage or by proxy, maybe close friendship.
No, extended family is like maybe on my side. For instance, your in-laws are my extended family. My in-laws are your extended family.
Oh, from that
when you come together in marriage, your family kind of changes.
Yeah, sure.
So growing up, for instance, we tell our son Petra, growing up now, his family is himself, him and his
and his brother and sister.
We tell Petra that his family is himself and his siblings, and then daddy and mommy. And then when he grows up and gets married, his family changes, the dynamics changes, and then his family immediately becomes himself and his wife, and then we become his extended family, his brother, his sister, his dad, his mom.
Exactly.
We immediately become his extended family.
Yeah, because his nuclear family is now his wife and
himself
his
and his wife. And when they have children, his family becomes his wife and his children. I even break it down because he says, I'm the number one woman in his life. And I love it. Oh, beautiful. I'm the one woman in your life. Once you get married, I become number two. Your wife is number one.
Yeah.
And then if you give birth and you have a girl, I become number three
woman in his life.
Because your number one woman is your wife, and then number two is your daughter. So that's how it is. That's the way God did it. I'm number one in my husband's life forever. And so why would I want to continue to be
number one in somebody else's life?
Somebody else's life, exactly. Yeah. So the only person that remains my nuclear family forever and ever is my husband.
Exactly. Every other person becomes extended family.
Every other person changes.
By default, as a matter of time. Yeah. So that's what we want to discuss today, to see the dynamics, how it actually really plays out, and how it's supposed to be. So ideally, we'll talk about it from an ideal perspective. Then we'll not talk about maybe some things that are happening out there that are not ideal, that can be addressed, right? Yeah. So let's start with the ideal. What's the ideal. For this reason, a man will leave his
father and mother and cleave to his wife, and they become one flesh.
There's a reason why it is the man that has to leave.
Even though that seems like
it's supposed to be the woman that is leaving our father's house to come and live with a man, but actually it's the man that's supposed to leave, and there's a reason. God is a God of order. He doesn't just do things without order in place. God strongly believes, let's use that word, there's anyone like that a man is the head of the home, and because he's the head of the home, he's the primary custodian of the vision of that home. Doesn't mean that a woman cannot have a vision or should not have a vision, but it just simply means that any vision any woman has, a man has to have that vision too.
Exactly.
And so he's the primary custodian of that vision. Not because the woman cannot say anything about the vision or say, yeah, this is what I think this marriage should be, but because when it's time for God to ask questions about our home, the man is the primary one responsible for answering those questions. That's why when God was calling them in the Garden of Eden, when they fell in Genesis chapter 3, what happened? It was very simple. God called unto Adam. All-knowing God knew that Eve ate the forbidden fruit, right? All-knowing God knew that Eve was the primary mastermind of how they fell in the garden, but God still did not call her out first. Instead, God called unto Adam, where are you? And then Adam answered and all that, right? So there is an answering that every man needs to have for his family. So God knew that, and that's why he wants the man to leave his father and his mother, because he knows that for every new family that is going to be set up, the man leaving his father and mother establishes a new family entirely, and that is God's agenda. God wants new families. He says, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, right? So that fruitfulness is the box is ticked when a man leaves his father and his mother. If a man still stays with his father and his mother while having children, those children and the wife he has married, they are just an extension of that man that is his father. So nothing new has really happened.
Exactly.
So God
the man is not the head of that home, because he's still under those people who are leading him.
So God wants that multiplication to happen. So God says, this man, leave your father and mother and go and start a new family. When that is established, then a new family is birthed, and then God can now continue his agenda. Remember in the scriptures also, in fact, the day God showed me that scripture, I was actually in awe. God told Abraham's father actually about Canaan. So Abraham was not the first person that was going to journey to Canaan. There was actually an initial journey his father took, but somebody needed to continue that journey, and God chose Abraham to continue that journey. They were on their way to the same place that God told Abraham that he was going to get to. All right. Now, there's a reason why there must be continuity, and there's also a reason why a new family has to start a new journey per time. Now, that's why God says, man, separate from your father and mother and have a new family. Now, that is the ideal. Anything that is different from that is a travesty of the proper plan that God has for humanity.
That's it.
When a woman is the one that is leading, or the one that is having to leave her parents, and then she's the one that is establishing a new family,
or leave her father and mother and come and join an existing family,
is a travesty of the divine order.
No matter what you want to say, it's against what the Bible says.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why in some churches, when you want to get married, they'll tell you things like, hey, you as a man must have a house of your own.
Yes.
You can't live in a family house. You can't live with your uncle. You can't live with your auntie. You have to be an independent unit.
Simple room, but it has to be your own place.
Yeah, you have to be an independent unit. There's a reason why God actually wanted that, and that's what I also want to discuss today, because in the midst of all this is a man leaving his father and mother who are like the in-laws of his wife, and then a woman marrying that man who also has a father and a mother that are now the in-laws of the man. Right now, when you think about man and wife alone, and you understand that the man and the wife alone have to first of all form a singular unit, then it's easier for us to understand the extended family matter, nuclear family matter, because once the man and the wife sets up a new family, God is recognizing them as an independent unit, as an independent family unit. The dynamics of their relationship would have to change. How the man relates with his father and mother would have to change. How the woman relates with her father and mother would have to change. In some cultures, people go as far as changing names, right? In Nigeria, people change names. So you were once Eladenika, now you're an ADEYEMI-LEVITES. There are people who get married and they say, hey, I don't want to change my name. And the man says, there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't really matter. But there are some cultures where the name will change, but that's like a secondary dynamic. The primary dynamic is that there is a change of control. Yes. There's change of power. There's change of influence, there's change of authority once a new family is set up. That man is responsible for whatever happens to that woman and the children that are going to come into that marriage. And so every factor, every relationship that has been existing before that marriage has to be critically managed. And that is where managing the in-law, setting boundaries now come to play. Now, why must you set boundaries in your marriage? Why must you set boundaries? Number one, because you're an independent unit. It's like if you don't set boundaries for America, in fact, that's what Trump is doing right now, right? He's making sure that boundary that was set many years ago is really being respected. Oh, we don't want foreign nationals on our soils anymore, on our soil anymore, just like that.
We don't want illegal immigrants.
We don't want illegal immigrants. There are reasons why such things are actually being done now, right? Same thing, when a man marries a woman, he must first of all set that boundary to say, hey, you don't come close to my family and make decisions for us again. You probably were doing that when I was living with you.
If you don't set boundaries, it will just continue.
It will just continue. The influence will just continue.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about the cultural side to this. So in African culture, for instance, extended family is considered like a community that you still have to continue to nurture and to manage. While that is true, like you can't just marry and leave your family and say I'm communicating.
I mean, family is important.
Yeah, family is important. So the extended family has to be placed in a position where we look at this extended family. You have to be there. There has to still be a relationship.
It has to be extended.
It has to be extended, but it can't be primary anymore. That's the word. It can't be primary anymore. Your primary family is now your wife and your children, your husband and your children. Why are we saying this? We've had instances where people would say things like, oh, if you cannot marry me and my mother, then we can't get married.
As the man or as the woman?
As the man, sometimes they say, if you can't marry me and my mother, like the man will be saying to the young woman, like, hey, my mother fought for me, took care of me, sacrificed a lot for me,
died for me, day for me. I mean, if somebody says that, I think that's
a red flag, a big red flag.
Indication for you to carry on.
Just move on, like it doesn't make sense. But there are a lot of young men out there. There are a lot of young men out there who say that to their young ladies that they want to get married to say, hey, hello, if you can't marry me and my mother, just forget it. That's not marriage. That's a red flag. Okay.
I saw recently with Kiki, and then she was on a date with a man that came with his mom, and she was asking him, like, I don't understand. He said his mom is the most important woman in his life. That's beautiful. When we marry, she says my mom is still going to be the most important. The girl was now like, okay, when we get married, assuming we get married, that means you will leave your mom. If you miss her, what will you do? He said, I won't miss her now.
Because
I'll just go and see her in the master bedroom. Like, and you'll be surprised at how things are. You know, in this part of the world, we've had, unfortunately, a lot of men step down, if I can say that. We've had a lot of men not step up to their roles. We've had a lot of men do bad, not do right by women. And we've had a lot of women had to step up and take up the charge and take care of the children. And no child grows up in that kind of setting and doesn't feel like they owe their mom, or like they owe their mom to be there for her.
She actually has really fought,
she has labored and she has sacrificed and done everything. And because that is prevalent, you see many guys, many men who feel like their moms must always come first. And while the intention might seem good,
you want to compensate her for the times that she has sacrificed and all that.
You cannot compensate her by making her
sacrificing your own family.
Exactly, by making her your wife or your number one woman. Because it's like saying, oh, because I love my 3-year-old child, he did so well, I will give him the car key to drive us to school today.
The child is going to crash the car.
You can't, because you want to love a child, you can't overlove a child and give the child what to harm the child. Same way you cannot overlove your mom. I want to compensate her
by giving her authority
and giving her a place that is meant for your wife.
Exactly. So things like that have to be well established in action, in love, in clarity of communication, in decision making by time, and in equality.
You can't expect, as a man, you can't expect that your woman would, submit to you and defer to you and relinquish authority from her father and her mother, and you are not ready to do that.
You are not ready to do
or
that.
As a woman, you can't expect that your husband would leave his father and mother and cleave to you, and you are still under the authority of your father and your mother. It has to be.
Yeah, it has to be mutual. Yeah, it has to be very synergistic. Yeah, very correct. So you can't get married and you don't establish clear controls in your marriage. It's gonna crash.
Now this has nothing to do with honor or respect.
We're still going to talk about honor, because now there's a very thin line. So let's even talk about the honor thing, but the control thing will lead to the honor. or nothing, because you have to first of all understand that there is an establishment of a control that has to be in place, right? The control here doesn't mean that you just want to just say bye-bye to daddy and mommy, I'm not talking to you again. No. The control is what happens in your marriage is a function of decision that is going to be made between yourself and your spouse.
Simple.
Primarily, once a decision needs to be made per time about minor things, major things, whatever, and then you have to still involve your parents as the man or involve your parents as the woman, then there's going to be some trouble.
Or when, in some cases, when your parents bring themselves, involve themselves, and you allow it to happen. Yeah. You're not firm.
We're still going to talk about that.
It's not you
like offense and defense.
Exactly.
It's like it's either they bring the offense to your home and say, yeah, we want to still be in control.
Exactly.
Or you are defending them from being in control by putting some boundaries in place. Say, okay, see, you can't control my marriage, that kind of stuff. So let me give you classic examples. Like for instance, you get married to someone who is the son of a single mother, and the single mother took care of all the children, went to university, came out. She sacrificed a lot and all that. She's doing fantastically well because all her children are doing well, and then because she probably even funded your wedding or funded how you're getting to set up, she wants to have a say in things as simple as where you put your sofa, where you put your TV, how
she comes to your house,
that mother is already she's stepping into that control tower in a sense. She's encroaching gradually. Yeah, a good mom should know that I have sacrificed enough for my son and I've trained him well enough to be able to handle situations in life. Let me step back and let him take charge of his life.
The mom does not know. She has no insight.
That's now
she still sees her son as her baby.
Yeah,
that's fine. So the son has to step up.
The son has to step up, definitely. The son has to. The boundary has to be well created in such a way that there is no such thing as somebody is making a decision and it's not coming from himself and his wife. First of all, there can be inputs from families and extended families. Like you want to make a decision and you both agree that okay, let's seek counsel from mommy, or let's seek counsel. And it should even be like a once in a while affair. It's not going to be like an everyday affair. It shouldn't be that okay, you want to make a decision and next thing you're calling your mommy straight up. Mommy, I'm working Leroy about everything. Like you can't be calling mommy and say, mommy, what do you think about everything? You're calling your daddy all the time, right? And so any parents watching us, you can actually take this as a learning curve to say, hey, we know you are very emotional about it. You sacrifice a lot for your children.
You have a lot of wisdom. Sometimes you have to let people learn.
Because sometimes parents even don't want to step back because they don't trust. That's another thing. They don't trust that the child is going to make the right judgment, or they don't even feel like the child has married the right person. 1, 2, or they even feel that I can see the end from this thing, and sometimes they're right. Yeah. But they still have to they have to be able to exercise self-control. Exactly. In holding back and letting them learn, letting them do things their way. Exactly. It might be very difficult. Yes. If you're a parent and you're listening to this, it might be very difficult, but you have to work on it. And if you are the child of a parent who has this kind of reach on your home, and you just got married, or you've been married for a number of years, and your mom-in-law or your dad-in-law is actually exerting so much control and influence over your home, check it out. What's the power they have over you?
Because these days we have a lot of people who, we've heard cases,
or even sister-in-law and brother-in-law.
We've heard a lot of sisters who, have a lot of control, or because siblings grow up close, and then especially younger sisters of brothers, there's a love that is between a brother and his younger sister that the younger sister has to understand. And my brother now has a wife, and I need to step back. You can't be, this is what I want to, brother. This is my brother's house. You can't be doing that.
Yeah, you have to set. So now let's even talk to the couples first. We've talked to the parents a little bit. Siblings would definitely come at the back burner, but it's also important because some siblings have scattered their marriages. And then, in fact, there was one story we read on Instagram sometime ago about a man and his younger sister moving into their home in the US, and then the wife is working, the man is not working, feeding all of them, feeding husband, feeding the younger sister of husband, very messy stuff. And then your younger sister now got a job. She's not dropping a dime in the house. She's maintaining her own stuff and taking one room out of a two-room apartment. It was actually really a mess, and I was like, hey, really? Like, that's so much power and influence in a very small home, right? So there has to be that power shift when you get married. That's the summary of what you're saying. If you get married as a young man and a young woman, both of you, your power should be within yourself first of all. No external person. Your parents.
That's why you have to start on your own first of all. Even if you're starting really, really small, it's better than starting, because you cannot be in for instance, if I'm a father and I have a grown-up son I'm wealthy and I have like many rooms, you can't be in my house and not be under my authority.
Yeah, that's just what it is.
No matter what you call yourself.
Exactly.
You're a husband in your pocket.
So you have to move out of that house first of all. Yeah, so let's even talk about it from the husband and wife perspective to say, as spouses, what is the control that anybody has over your home?
Yes.
Sometimes it's financial control.
Yes.
Sometimes it's emotional control.
Stakeholders.
Sometimes it's spiritual control. There are families that they get married and it is what the prophet father says that they have to do. I cannot make any decision if I don't tell my father. My father has to tell me what to do because he's a prophet or he's a pastor or he's something.
My leader.
Or he's my leader or he's my mentor or something of that nature. Yeah, there's a very thin line between sanity and insanity when things like that happen, because the truth is, after a while, it is the father that now becomes the husband in a sense, because he's one making all the decisions in the house. So that has to be established. Like, what is the control? Is it financial control? Were you set up by your parents? If you're set up by your parents, they most likely will have an entitlement towards how things are run in your marriage.
Gifts. Be sure that there are no strings. Exactly.
Because it's not a bad thing to take money from your parents. Well, now, in an ideal environment, that's normal. Parents to fund children, fund their wedding, fund their livelihood, at least at the beginning, ideally. But once the parents who are funding those things begin to exert control and power, then that's wrong. So you, as the man and wife, have to sit down and have an understanding and agree that if this is the control that my father or my mother has on each side over this marriage, we need to break that control, because if we don't break it, then we can't even survive. We're not a unit. Don't forget, the beginning part is you must be an independent unit. The independence has to be independence. Like when we got independence from Britain, the British government many years ago, it was like we had to design our own money. We stopped spending, they used to call it pound then in those days, like they used to call it pound in those days, like shile. Shile is some shillings. Shile is some shillings.
It's Yoruba.
It's Yoruba when I call it shile. Shile as a pound.
That's a group of Yoruba people.
But we had to stop spending that money, right, and design our own naira and kobo, right? So you have to design your own world as an independent unit when you start. If there's
painful.
It might be painful. It might be like you might have to lose some level of comfort. You might have to lose some level of even exposure. You might not have some kind of cars you used to drive anymore. Especially if the parents are insisting that as long as I'm in your life and I'm sponsoring your marriage, I have to control what happens in your marriage, this kind of stuff. You have to manage it. Then apart from that, I think both parties also have to agree that if there's financial control, we're taking care of it. There's emotional control. If your parents are trying to emotionally blackmail you into saying, like some parents will say, like, you sucked my breast till you grew up, so now I cannot talk to you again.
Baba, or something. Another breast.
That's if it's a guy. Now, what if it's a lady? I mean, she's sucking another breast too.
Everybody's sucking another breast.
All right, so like, I mean, those emotional blackmail can actually come a lot, and you have to be emotionally prepared for it. It's usually better when this thing is nipped in the bud when you are still cutting before you get married.
Another thing is, it's easier for the person with the extended family to deal with the family. I shouldn't leave my husband to deal with my family.
Yeah, that's another formula we tell people who are doing premarital.
And he shouldn't leave me to deal with his family's encroachment. I shouldn't have any issues with my in-laws. It's wrong, and my husband is not dealing with it. Same, he shouldn't have any issues with his in-laws, and I'm not dealing with it. These are things that in the beginning of our marriage, now not issues, but little, I mean, everybody is we're all creatures of habit. Things that used to happen before, and you know, we have to draw a line.
Yeah, set boundaries, clear boundaries.
Getting married, the way it was with my mom, like, it had to be, oh no, mommy, this doesn't happen like this. He had to set clear boundaries, and that's exactly what
so setting the boundaries might require you to actually step on toes at some points. No matter how respectful you try to set the boundaries, your parents will get the message that, hey, you want us off your life, not completely, but you don't want us to be in control of your life, and we are not cool with it.
It should be the prayer of every parent.
But that's not usually happens in African context. Like, it's not usually like that. Most African parents still want to exert some level of control. I mean, we all got married. You remember very well things that happened now, like calls I was receiving.
I know.
And I'm like, I'll be hearing things like, where are you? My wife, first time it happened, where are you? And my wife like, who's calling?
Who is calling the man of my house? Who is calling the head of my house?
Like, I'm a man of my own. I can go anywhere. Like, I don't be staying late in the night outside, but I won't tell you. I won't say the name of the person. Let me just keep quiet.
It's from a place of love.
It's a place of love, but at the same time, like, I had to set the boundaries. I had to block that from happening. So the first thing is I stopped picking such calls. Like, I'm a man enough to get married. I got married at 31. I'm not a baby. Like, you can't be using calls to be controlling me and be saying, don't stay late in the night outside. What if it was a business meeting or whatever it is? Or I went to go and play with my wife outside. Like, you can't tell me when to leave my house and when to come back, right? So I had to set that boundary. There are many boundaries that we set like that.
As husband and wife, you don't, it won't just fall upon you to relinquish control from your children when they grow up. You start from small.
You start from
I remember
small,
when, like, our second born Caris, like, I used to feed our first born a lot when he was little.
Yeah,
and then with our second born, he wanted independence.
Very early.
Him wanting to feed himself shouldn't have made me, my baby does not need me again. I should rather be happy that he
doesn't need you again to feed himself.
Exactly. So it's from small. If you're doing what you should do at the right time, giving your child what you should give your child at the right time,
that level of independence to make decisions.
Then it will be with a clear conscience that you allow your children wings to fly, how to soar. Like, if my child is making a decision, for instance, simple things as there's a list of clubs that our child can join in school, and they send us a mail, we can easily decide for him. But we let him choose.
We let him choose what he wants. Like, we're setting the children up for
being able to
making independent decisions. That even when after a while we can go and sleep and say
exactly. As a good mentor, your prayer, your goal should be that you've trained the child enough to be able to make sound judgment.
Exactly.
To be able to make right judgments.
And that is the crux of parenting.
Exactly. That's what parenting is. So even all these things that a lot of parents do and they are hawking over children, it's because there was
a failure at some point. Yeah. You didn't train that child well enough to be independent. And I always say, like,
trust that the child can make sound judgment.
The core of our parenting goal as a family is to raise independent children. In fact, there's a certain age that we pegged for our children to say
we have
at a certain age you should be able to do XYZ by yourself.
Age 3, age 4, age 5, age 6.
Till when you're going to leave our house. We know the age that you get to, and you must, by that age, you must have learned. We have a process for it. Like, we have timetable for when you clock this age, you'll be able to do XYZ. By the time you're leaving our house at age whatever that is confidential now, we don't want to say it out, right? We're still even debating on it, kind of like. She doesn't want them to leave at a particular age. And I'm like, at this age,
I need it out
of my house. Like, you should be independent enough to start paying your rent yourself, start buying things for yourself, start traveling yourself, doing things by yourself. And we are
also doing our best to work up and build our finances such that we are leaving an inheritance for our children.
Yeah, so they can actually from that inheritance make independent decisions by themselves. No strings attached. Yeah.
Because we believe we've taught them to make sound judgments.
Exactly. So I'm not going to be watching like, who is Petra going to marry? I hope the money I'm going to give to him, one girl will not just come and squander it. I know I will train him well enough to even choose the right person that won't squander the money, but rather would be smart enough to grow the money. Do you understand? That's just an example. So I think some parents have missed that, and because of that, there's still some level of overreaching that's happening. So children have to now set the boundaries, right? To say, hey, you've trained me well enough. Let me be able to handle myself and make certain decisions for myself. So there's certain calls you might need to stop picking. It might sound disrespectful at the beginning. It might look like, hey, you're stepping on your parents' toes.
You're not having wings.
Yeah, but you have to set the boundaries, and you can even be very, very polite and respectful about it to say, hey, I need to set these boundaries because if I don't set these boundaries, my marriage might not go the way it's supposed to go, or something of that nature. I know it's not as easy as that, but those conversations have to be had. But first of all, the people that are having the conversations will have enough spine to stand and say,
not that we are going to bear the brunt of whatever happens. That I did not collect money from my daddy.
Exactly.
Now we are not suffering.
Exactly. So you have to have that spine to be able to stand up for your family as an independent unit. Don't forget, it is still because you are an independent unit. Nobody should have any power over your marriage enough to call the shot. That's the idea.
We're having all these conversations so that it can stir up conversations in your home, in your space, so that you can talk about these things. We always like to say what we're telling you is based on biblical facts.
Exactly.
Like, it's science and God. It's science and scripture. So you don't do things culturally. Many things that a lot of people think are, how we've been doing it does not mean it's right. Because people have been doing things a particular way does not mean it's right. I want to say something that is going to break a lot of tables, and I don't know if I should say it or not.
Say it now.
Should I say it?
Say it now.
It is one thing that a lot of people say about Jen one more. Should I say it?
Please say it.
It is not scriptural.
Yeah, very unscriptural. I mean, why are you being apologetic about it?
Because I have
Jen one more is not in scriptures. It's anti-scriptures.
It's anti-scriptures. The Bible says a good man will live up and inheritance for his children and his children's children.
Yeah.
So if you're not leaving up inheritance for your children and children's children, then you're not a good man.
Yeah.
The inheritance now, some people will be money, some people it's not just money, some people it is a good name.
Yeah, good name.
It is good
like
will.
Living God for you.
Wisdom.
Wisdom,
it is
yeah.
God, it is but you cannot decide as a parent you're going to sit down and wait to eat what your children will give.
It's unscriptural actually, but it's a lot.
But it's traditional, and you hear people even preach these things.
Let me help you break the table very well.
I want to scatter it.
I want to scatter it finally. See, when it comes to a lot of things that are traditional in Africa, a lot of them actually stem from things that are not biblical, very anti-scriptural. It is not even wisdom to say. Now, don't get us wrong. We're not saying parents should not be taken care of.
Or that children
we take care of our parents as much as possible. Or children should not appreciate parents. But what we're trying to say is the Genwomo that people say in Africa is more or less like they are actually living on their children.
Yes.
They are living on their children. It's different from you have taken care of your children up to a certain level, and then you expect that are they actually out of gratitude come around once in a while, buy you things, show you love, maybe make you travel, take you around the world, or even maybe give you maybe monthly stipends or something like that. There's nothing wrong with all those things, but we don't even think that is the real Genwomo people talk about. The more Genwomo that people talk about is more or less like they are actually literally living on their children to say, I have taken care of you up to a certain point, now it's time to take care of me. It's not scriptural, actually. Now, does that eliminate honor? No. Does that eliminate respect? No. Does that say as a child you shouldn't take care of your parents? No. But what
I think if you even touch your child well,
yeah, your child will come back and actually take care of you. It's a different ball game entirely. Like, especially if you didn't take care of that child or you didn't train that child, or a well-trained child will come back and take care of their parents. But what we're trying to say, in fact, technically, what we're trying to say is like black tax.
Yeah.
Right? To say black tax is real.
Maybe we should talk about black tax one time.
We should talk about black tax, actually. I think it's a very serious topic to talk about. Yeah. So black tax simply means some people just make it in the family, and everybody, father, mother, siblings, cousins, uncles, aunties, everybody wants to actually, everybody wants to get a thing out of that person at time.
He got a deal. I think he's an actor or something, and then everybody in his family they resigned.
I imagine he just got a big break, and all his family members resigned from their jobs and say, yeah, our brother has made it in life. That's rubbish. But you know, we're talking about managing extended families, managing setting boundaries when it comes to in-laws. That's where it starts from. So it starts from, first of all, even letting people know what you stand for and letting people know who you are, not like hiding under the umbrella of, I don't want anybody to say bad things about me. There are times when if you really want to do the right thing, people have to say bad things about you, and it really does not matter, right? It really does not matter. What matters most is that you're doing the right thing. Now, this thing I'm saying, I know it's going to cause a lot of trouble in some places, like I understand this, but we are trying to make sure that, you know, this is a point blank, right? We're trying to make sure, in fact, point blank, we're trying to make sure that we are teaching what is scriptural. What is scriptural is honor your parents, and the honor involves you definitely taking care of your parents, financially, emotionally, being there for them and all that. But it doesn't mean parents should now live on their children. Living on the children is what is anti-scriptural. But taking care of the parents is not anti-scriptural. When the parents are beginning to make demands on the child to say, you must do this for me, you must do that for me, it is not scriptural. And that is where we are expecting you as a young couple to set your boundaries right from day one. Because let me tell you the truth, either you like it or not, if you don't set boundaries for your finances in your marriage, you don't set boundaries emotionally, you're just going to continue the cycle in your marriage, and you don't want that to happen. Now, when it comes to setting boundaries, you need a lot of emotional intelligence, you need a lot of wisdom, you need a lot of insight, you need to know how to table the matter in such a way that you are not breaking any relationship in the real sense of it. Like, you're not going to the point where your parents can't talk to you again, or your siblings can't talk to you again, you're not cutting people off, but we are just making sure that you protect that independent unit that God gave to you. For every family that exists, God is going to ask questions. God called Adam when trouble burst in the garden, and he asked questions. God is going to ask you questions as a young man, what you did about every intruder that tried to come into your home. Don't forget, when the snake came, the snake did not come like an harmful person. The snake came harmless, even came like the snake was trying to help. Now, there are people who actually are interested in your marriage. There's this Mendel's matrix we always use when we we teach about this in our premarital program, and we talk about those who actually have high interest, low power, low interest, low power, high interest, high power,
low interest,
low power, all the rest like that, right? There are different categories of people like that. Stakeholders in your marriage, right? Now, that stakeholders matrix, we've used it to teach a lot of things on how to handle each of those people. But guess what? More often than not, people can have good intentions, but it ends up having bad consequences for your marriage. The snake obviously had bad consequences in mind, but I'm just using the context to say the snake came around like, I have good intentions for you. I want you to be liberated. You'll be able to be like God. You'll be able to know good from evil, that kind of stuff. And then the woman bought into it, right? So the same thing in your marriage. People can come with good intentions, give you great advices because they want you to actually be maybe subservient to them, or they just want access to your marriage. You have to learn how to set boundaries. They want to be in the know. There are people, people have given us Greek gifts before now, if you remember very well. We had people like that gave us Greek gifts, and it was looking like, this is beautiful. And then before we know what, it was looking like boundaries were getting eroded gradually, and we had to reinforce those boundaries and say, hey, no more Greek gifts. It looks good.
Final word.
It looks good, but we're not doing it. So beware of such Greek gifts. People that seemingly come around and they seem to have good intentions for your marriage, but actually the consequences are terribly bad on your marriage on the long run. And we hope that
understand first of all that your family is your wife and your children.
Exactly.
Primarily, according to God. Understanding that, and understand that as a man you are the custodian, as a woman you are meant to also protect and shield, because if you look at Adam and Eve was the one that allowed evil to come in. So you're also a watchman, and so if you protect that family with all you've got,
exactly,
you'll be on the right track.
You'll be on the right track. Yeah, thank you very much. We hope that you enjoyed this.
Share, subscribe, leave a comment, and remember to.
And we hope we have not been able to confuse you, but we have been able to convince you.
Bye.
All right, take care of yourselves. Bye. Thank you.